Hello guys, and welcome to a new Division 2 video today by me, Vulcan. In this one I have for you a first look at the 25th HADOSZTÁLY, a new division available in the upcoming DLC, Blood Feud in Transylvania. This is going to be the last of the divisions that I'm going to be looking at, so if you've missed some of the others, make sure to go back and check them out. But as a disclaimer, Eugen has given me free access to the DLC, so a big thanks to them. Also, please remember that this is an early preview, and what you see may be subject to change. If you'd like to read the description on the right hand side, feel free to pause the video and take a look, but I'm going to be jumping straight on in. We're going to be going through all of the units as usual, and then building a division. Let's start off in the Recon tab. First of all, we have the Bmw Motorcycle, your classic MG motorcycle. No radio on this one, unfortunately. 6 in A, 12 in B. Moving on, we have the AT Rifle BMW, which has potential to be like a fast early rush vehicle to take out enemy transports, but honestly you never really have space to fit them in, and you only get 4 in phase A and 8 in phase B. Then we have the Felddelito Jaror. These guys are your standard 2-man recon squads with exceptional stealth and very high optics, great for hiding in like churches and on the edge of tree lines and stuff, just to provide you with information throughout the game, but no significant transports on these guys. Then we have a card of the Hutaren Durcheg. These guys are a 12-man disheartened recon squad. For 15 points, not terrible honestly, since you have quite a lot of men, and they will provide, decent recon capability. Not as good as maybe like the Felddelito Jaror because they only have good optics, but still going to be useful, I think. Then we have the Chubba, your classic AT rifle armored car, and just good for taking out enemy sort of transports and potentially enemy armored vehicles like half tracks. This is one thing that this can be used for. You're not going to really hit transports that much because the range on the AT rifle is only 500 meters, so bear that in mind. And then we have the Lovash Feldelitok. These guys are your big boy recon squads for 25 points. They get a submachine gun, 10 rifles, and the Solitern light machine gun. 12 strength with exceptional stealth and very high optics. Definitely a lot better than Hutaren Durcheg in terms of their stats. So I think generally you'd probably pick the Lovash Feldelitok over the Hutaren Durcheg, but the Hutaren Durcheg do have more availability, so that is something that you could definitely count on there. Let's move on to the infantry tab. First of all, we have the Loves. They get 2 submachine guns, the 9 rifles, and the Solitern with the Panzerfaust. Availability on these is relatively decent. You get 12 men as well in a squad. But yeah, 8, 18, and 27 on the card in phase A, B, and C. You're probably going to want to up-vet them just so you can push them to like 3 vet, because having a 12 strength squad at 3 vet can be really, really difficult to get rid of. We have the Rohamakasok. These are the Flamer squads. They have 4 submachine guns and a flamethrower, plus the smoke grenade. So a 5-man Flamer squad. A little bit worse than like the Sturm Pioneers, for example. You get 5 in A and 10 in B. And we have the Akasok squads. Now these are okay for getting down HE at close range, but other than that, they're not going to be doing much else because their overall damage is not too great at range, and at close range their main weapons aren't that good either. So you're kind of quite reliant on this HE bundle grenade. But these come in with 6, 12, and 18. You can up-bet these and you drop a couple of availability. That's the main thing that kind of makes these a bit lackluster. But for 20 points, they can definitely fill out your division. Then we have some Hegi Loves. These guys are your mountain troops. They have the Flamer, the trait because of the Molotov, and then they've got 3 submachine guns, 9 of the rifles, and the Madsen. So their DPS at close range is actually pretty strong because they're going to be dropping the Molotov. It's going to force the enemy to move. They're going to lose their entrenchment bonus, and then you're going to be able to do a lot of damage with the weapons that they have. The only bad part about the Hegi Loves is that they don't really have any veterancy, and you can't bring them in with higher veterancy. You get 9, 18, and 27 on a card, which is good, but you can't initially up-vet them, so they can never be 3 vet. Otherwise, they'd be super strong. Then we have the Hegi Lovestist. This is the leader for the Hegi. These guys are a 6-man squad with radio, but you only get 2, 4, and 6. Availability on these is pretty naff, to be honest. So not your most ideal option for leaders. Then there's the Hussardist. These guys are a 6-man squad again, leader squad, no radio, only 2 and 4 again in availability in A and B. But they do have smoke, so a little bit more versatile in keeping themselves alive, and having 4 submachine guns is also somewhat deadly at close range. Next up we have the Loves 25G. These guys have a double machine gun and they're fanatical. Very, very nice squad. 4 submachine guns and the rifles as well. Like, this is just overall a lot of firepower for a 25-point squad with 13 strength. And then you've also got a Panzerfaust to boot. So 8 available in A and 16 available in B. You definitely want to be upvetting these, because a 3-vet version of these at close range is going to be absolutely nasty. Very, very nice squads. Then we have the Lovestist leader, which is a bit more standard. 3 in A, 6 in B, 9 in C. Availability is way better, and you get 5 men with smoke grenades. So this is more like it when it comes to the leaders. The only thing is, if you need more radios, you might still go for the Hegi Lovestist. Let's move on to the tank tab. So there's only 2 cards here. We have the Zrini 2 and the Zrini 2 leader. These are pretty solid fire support tanks, but they're not going to be able to deal with enemy armor too well. So their main heat round only has 1,500 meter range at 30% accuracy. So you're going to want to be very close in order to get the accuracy higher and then actually get that penetration on target. Yes, that penetration can deal with medium armor quite well, but it's just a matter of getting that close. And you're not generally going to be that close with these units because their HE round is 2,000 meter range with 4.1 damage. So that's going to be the primary role of these units. They get 6 round per minute rate of fire, which is pretty decent. And give them some extra veterancy. They're going to be benefiting from that quite a lot. Their vet curve is decent. You know, it goes 5, 4, and 3 up to 2 vet. And yeah, 5 in phase A, 10 in phase B. You get 2 cards of these. Then the leader variant, you only get 2 in phase A, but probably still worth bringing, just so you have that extra 2,000 meter range HE fire support, because it's going to be quite useful. Moving into the support tab, we have 6 cards available of the 50mm mortars. I always mention it. If it's not a Soviet 50mm, it's probably not worth bringing, because the range is really short on these. Only 540 meters. They can be useful in town engagements, in heavy cover engagements, but it depends if you can fit them in the deck. Usually you can't, but the support tab in this case is quite generous on activation points, so maybe you could. Then there's the Langzodashuk. These guys are your 2-man flamer teams. You get 6 in A, 9 in B, and they're going to be useful for supplementing your other infantry at close range in order to, you know, force the enemy to move, break their entrenchment, whilst your main squads kind of deal the damage. That's what these are pretty good for. Also, because they have the Bmw Motorcycle, they can get to the front line quite quickly, so it can be used to contest certain areas at the start of the game. And since AT rifles are less prevalent, or at least probably will be less prevalent, you're going to probably take 2-man flamer squads more often now. Then we have the Schwarloser, your standard machine gun with the extra vet by default, which is nice for helping you get it even higher in veterancy and then allowing you to actually pin enemy squads. You get 6 in A, 12 in B, and 20 in C. Then there's the Botond supply trucks, which have the 10,000 supply, 3 cards of those available. There's the Stier Commander, which is just the commander truck. You can get a commander motorcycle in A, and then the Loves Commander, which is just your 4-man commander team. Generally, the command options here are pretty bad, especially considering like this one even only comes in phase B. But a kind of lackluster support tab, considering how much you can get here if you want to. There's 5 1-point activation points, cards. Let's move on to the anti-tank. So we've got, first of all, the Nehezpuska. These guys are your AT teams. 2 strength AT rifle squad with the smoke grenade. For 10 points, not that bad to be honest. And again, they come in BMWs, so they can zoom forwards. Might kind of encourage you to still use an AT rifle start in some cases because of the cheapness of these units. Then there's the 40mm AT gun, which does have the 180mm 750m range heat rocket that it can fire. And then it's got its standard AP round, which has 750, that would be quite a lot, 75mm of penetration at 50% accuracy, which is quite nice, 12 round per minute rate of fire. And it also gets HE rounds at 12 round per minute rate of fire. So yeah, nice solid AT gun that you can dot around all over the place. You do get 2 cards of Pack 40s, which is nice. These come with 2 APCR shells. Then you get the standard AP round, which has 145 mils of penetration at 1,750m range. This is definitely sort of like your go-to AT, and you're going to want to have these sort of in the mid to late game to deal with the heavier armor that's going to be heading your way that you can't really deal with your own tanks and vehicles. But you do get 1 card of the Jagdpanzers, and these can be brought in A, B, and C. Deciding which phase these should come in is actually going to be kind of difficult, because you've only got 1, and your other tank AT is very limited. Let's move on to the anti-air tab. So we got this bad boy. Check this out. Looks like it belongs in World War One. Probably does. We have the Raba. This is a 76mm anti-aircraft gun. It has HE rounds, which do 1.52 damage at 1,500 meter range with 15 round per minute rate of fire. It can put down some decent HE. And then it has the 3,000 meter range against aircraft, which I believe is the same as, yeah, like a Flak 41 or like any other of the big guns. But look at that thing, it's crazy. Amazing. Anyway, 2 available in Phase A, 4 available in Phase B, only cost 80 points. I don't think these are terrible, to be honest, and a very interesting unit for sure. Then we have the standard 40M, and the 36M, sorry, 40mm AA, with its AP rounds, the 75mm penetration at 1,000 meter range. This can clean up light vehicles really, really well. But generally, these are just fantastic for taking down enemy aircraft, a lot like Bofors. So bring them in with a little bit of veterancy, get them to 3 vet, and then they just go wild. Very, very strong AA. Finally, there is a card of the 88s. You can get 2 in A, 4 in B, and 6 in C. They can only be brought in with the tractors, so they're going to be getting to the front line pretty slow. But since they're not going to be on the front line, generally, it doesn't matter too much that they're slow. But yeah, there is the option of 88s. Moving on to the artillery. First of all, we have the Tuzarek, your classic 2-man observer squads with the 2 submachine guns and the smoke grenade. You can get 3 in A, 6 in B, good for if you need that extra radio capability. Then we have the Tuzatist, great option, your standard artillery leader, good for supplementing your infantry tab with leaders in the artillery tab if you need it. And considering the infantry tab's quite expensive later on, in terms of the cards back here, maybe you will do that, or want to do that. There is a 75mm guns. These don't have radios. Sometimes these do have radios, sometimes they don't. But these don't. And 4 in A, 50 points apiece. You're going to be able to, like, spray an area, but will you actually pin much down? Probably not. You'd be much better relying on these 81mm mortars, which you can actually get 4 cards of if you wanted to, but 4 in A, 8 in B, and 12 in C for those. Then we get the 105mm, the classic LEFH. This is actually not a terrible option in the early game for 70 points, because these can be quite accurate. But 3 in A, 6 in B, and 9 in C. And you can also bring them in with the big supply truck. Can you bring in these with the big supply truck? No, you can't. So just the 105s here so far. Then we have the 105mm off-map aircraft. So the Solium, which is a pretty interesting aircraft. I don't know if it's going to be any good. It's got bad resilience, and it's not too fast. So I reckon this will get shot down quite easily. And it also doesn't really have very good off-map. Like, it's LEFH off-map. It does get 4 charges, though. That's pretty big, actually. So maybe it is worth it. Like, early on, if you bring it early, you can get, like, 4 of the strikes in throughout, like, the first 10 minutes or so of the game. That could be pretty oppressive, honestly. And late game, having 3 of these that could put down 4 strikes. Obviously, you can't put them down all at once, but, you know, assuming they don't get shot down, you could really start whittling things down on the ground. Let's move on to the 120s. You actually get more availability for these. So 4 in A and 8 in B. There's 2 cards available. So you can get a big contingent of 120mm mortars going in Phase B if you choose to do so. And 120mm mortars, what they specialize in, is just that sort of like spread fire that if it does direct hit anything, it's going to do a lot of damage. But if it doesn't, it still kind of pins. So you're going to want at least like 3 or 4 of these before you start like doing the proper strikes. But when you do, that's when it will start to be quite effective. Then we have 4 cards available, holy moly, of these 149mm artillery pieces. That is quite something. They come 1, 2, and 4 availability. They can be brought in with the supply trucks. This is going to get nasty. If you manage to get all of these in throughout the game, then yeah, that could build up a lot in like a team game. Right, moving on to the air tab. First of all, we have the Heya. I'm probably pronouncing a lot of these extra names wrong, but this is a little recon fighter, which actually is pretty fast. 540 km/h speed is not too bad, but its firepower is lacking. So you're probably not going to be able to shoot things down that easily with it. But you get 4 in Phase A, and then 6 in B, and 8 in C, and they have medium resilience. So pretty solid recon fighter, honestly. Then we have the Ju-87 D5. This is your classic German recon aircraft. It does have 395 km/h speed, 220 mils that can ground strafe a little bit, but the availability on these is only 2 and 4, so not too great. There is also this bad boy. This is a very, very interesting one. This isn't the normal gun pods. It has 12 MGs, so 6 MGs in each of these gun pods, and then 2 in the wings. That is a lot of MGs, and I'm curious how well this does doing damage, but also pinning things down. You can actually bring these in at 2 VAT and get 2 of them in Phase A, so that could be kind of strong. But otherwise, 4, 8, and 12 availability of these, definitely an aircraft that I'm going to want to try out. Then we have the Me210 Fighter. Get 5 of these in Phase A. Again, you can upvet them quite well. 540 km/h speed. They do have 2 cannons and 2 MGs in the nose, as well as the 2 side turrets. It's a fast fighter. The only trouble you'll find is that it won't deal with enemy fighters very well unless you have like more than one and you get a good head on. If you don't, then you're just going to lose the aircraft. Then we have the Ju-87s with the 250 kilogram bomb and the 450 kilogram bombs. Decent payload. In Phase A, these could definitely get away with doing a bunch of damage. They go 2, 4, and 7 in availability. There's also one with a 500 kilogram bomb and 450 kilogram bombs. 2, 4, and 7 availability again. Slightly slower, bear in mind, since they do have a bigger payload. But yeah, interesting options for the early game. They're not going to do so well in the late game just because AA is going to be more prevalent, and also people are going to have more fighters, so they're going to probably go down much easier because Ju-87s are inherently slow. But anyway, moving on to the Me210 with 4 210mm rockets. This is actually pretty good, but the availability sucks. You only get 1 in A, 2 in B, and 3 in C. So whilst this could be like a really fun option, if you get like 2 in A, for example, that could be really useful. In this case, I'm not sure it's going to be as useful. Then you have access to the BF109 G6U4. This is the BF109 with the 30mm in the nose, which is really strong. So definitely one worth thinking about taking. If it gets into range with its 30mm, it will shoot down anything very, very fast. 590 km/h speed. You can even get these reasonably good vet as well. So in phase A, you could bring them in at like 2 with 1 vet, or even 1 with 2 vet, and they would do pretty well. But 3 in A, 6 in B, and 9 in C. Finally, you have access to the Focke-Wulf 190 F8. This only has 2 20mm and 2 MGs, so it's not the 4 20mm variant, it's just the 2 20mm variant. You get 3 in A, 6 in B, and 9 in C. Has the same speed as BF109 G6U4. The benefit of the Focke-Wulf mainly is its medium resilience. Makes it a lot harder to take out. And so you can get away with chasing things deeper into enemy lines because the AA is going to have a harder time shooting you down. So yeah, not a bad choice either. And that's your lot for the 25th HADOSZTÁLY. Let's go ahead and build a deck. Starting in the Recon tab. So I think here, I'm probably just going to go mostly for Lovash Ferdelitok. We'll bring them in with the Kloop, I think, just because that extra speed is pretty useful. I could also bring them in with these, but we only get 24 of them. Although in the early game, that could be pretty handy. So we'll bring in one of those. I'm also tempted to bring in some of these Feldelito Yarol, because just because they're kind of cheap. We'll bring in like a card of them in phase B with the 2 vet there. And then we'll do like another card of Lovash Ferdelitok in phase C for now. Let's move on to the Infantry tab. We will put in definitely both of these Fanatical squads. So we'll do 1 in A and 1 in B. For leaders in phase A, I'm thinking Lovestist. And then we do maybe Hegi Lovestist in phase B. I will want the Loham Akasok probably in A, because that's when they're going to be the most useful. And then we'll rely on Akasok in phase B for our close range. Although, saying that, might be worth bringing the Hegi Lovis instead. We could maybe still fit them in. Just do something like this, where we just have one of those Hegi cards in each phase, just to kind of fill out the roster a little bit. Although I'm not a big fan of the Akasok, so I might just take them out. And in phase C, we'll just add like some upvet Lovis. Yeah, let's do that. Right, tank tab, we'll definitely bring everything we got, so don't care too much about veterancy on these, I don't think. Although veterancy would help a lot with rate of fire, so maybe one vetting these isn't a terrible idea, since I'm likely going to have one of these nearby anyway, like the leader variant. Yeah, let's upvet these at least one vet. Support tab. So much stuff you can put in the support tab, but just not really much to choose from. I'm going to take the infantry leader though. We'll take the Lang Sodoshuk. I'll take a card of MGs. I'm almost tempted to bring in a card of 50mm mortars, but I think the main reason that the support tab is so good for activation points is because of your artillery tab. So let's just do 3 cards of supply A, B, and C. Anti-tank is going to be a difficult choice. I think having a card of AT in phase A and phase C is going to be the best bet, and then we use the Jagdpanzers in B with a card of Nehes Puska maybe. I could also rely maybe on the 40mm in Phase A as well. Does this one go faster? No, it doesn't. Let's bring them in those. That's fine. Alright, anti-air. Definitely going to try out this bad boy. We'll bring them in A. We'll bring in a card of these in Phase B, upvetted. And in Phase C, I would, if I could. So I'm tempted to opt for the 88s instead. Or we could just bring in more of these at one vet. Let's do that for now. Okay, artillery tab. Definitely going to want to bring in a bunch of big boy artillery. And I think in the early game, we could probably bring in 2 cards of those. I do want to bring out the off-map aircraft in Phase A. Do I need extra leaders? Potentially, but not going to add them yet. I think what I'm going to do is we'll have a card of 149s in Phase B and then a card of 149s in Phase C with the supply trucks. It's quite a large investment with the supply truck, but maybe you don't need the supply trucks because you've got the supply here. Especially if I'm... Yeah, that might be better because then it makes it more affordable. Otherwise, maybe some mortars, I'm thinking, or some extra artillery from the 105s in Phase A. We'll rely on early game leaders though with radio. Let's go into the air tab. I think this is a good choice. Otherwise, it's kind of hard to say. I think a card of Focke-Wulfs is a good idea. Maybe 2 cards of Focke-Wulfs. But you probably want some form of Ju-87s early on. We'll take the ones with the big bombs. I also want to try these, but we're kind of already running out of points. So maybe I can't afford to do too much of this. Because I would like to try these, and I'm going to bring them like 2 at 2 vet in Phase A, and then maybe we bring these in at Phase B, because I reckon one of these, like front running an enemy aircraft, is going to be brutal, absolutely brutal. Where else could we strip things down? I don't know if that's a good option in A. I think bringing in these in A is actually a better choice. So let's go ahead and do that. And then we can get the big boy artillery later on. The AT tab is fine. This is actually kind of dodge. Hard to work this out. Like Phase A wise, we've got Torohamakusok, Heki, Loves Tis. Like this is fine. And then we've got... Maybe I have to remove a recon unit. Like if we just remove the Phase B unit. And then we just rely on the Loves Frederitok into the late game. That would allow us another 2-point card. Which can either be in the air tab, or it can be in the artillery. And I think the artillery is the best shout. So I'm going to do at least one of these in Phase A to join the 105s. But we need radio. Alright, we'll take the TZs then. Cool. Interesting. I am not sure really how this deck is going to perform. It doesn't look very strong at all. And it's going to be massively under threat by enemy armor of any kind. Just because like mobility is the worst nightmare of this division due to its reliance on artillery. So that's going to be interesting to work around. But maybe I've kind of built this wrong. Maybe investing more into the artillery and less elsewhere is the way to go. Maybe like ripping one of the cards of the Zrini out or something is a good idea. There's definitely work to be done on this deck, and I'll probably figure it out the more I play it. But that is it for now. Hopefully my coverage of all of the new divisions that will be coming out in the latest DLC has been helpful. If it has, do make sure to subscribe. But that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.